this is Jimmy Waldo from Alcatrazz. You're listening to the FANTASM Podcast with Vincent. And he rocks, we rock, it rocks. You gotta listen to this and watch this.
Phantasm. Maximum terror.
That's your target audience, baby!
Phantasm.
And you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Phantasm.
Sell the metal! Sell the metal! Sell the metal! Sell the metal!
Phantasm.
Hey, this is Dr. Vincent West, Medical Doctor. I've got a very special guest today. We've got Jimmy Waldo, the keyboard player for Alcatrazz, one of my favorite bands growing up, and they're still great. They've got such a great new album, Take No Prisoners, and it's on Silver Lining Music, and we're going to be running through this amazing record today with Jimmy. Jimmy, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking your time.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for this. So when did you guys start the writing process for Take No Prisoners?
Really, it started kind of like right as we finished the last record. By the time the last record came out, we had already been starting to write for another record, which was Take No Prisoners. And then on the road, we write and record stuff on the road. So it was just it was a process of while we were touring, and then we came home and I had some ideas and Joe had stuff, and we started putting it together. So almost immediately after 5V did we start doing this one, putting it together anyway.
That album was incredible. It was awesome. I got to talk with Gary last time. It's such an honor to get to speak with you today. I've been a fan, like I said, from way back when. Take No Prisoners is a killer record. And kids, it comes out May 19th. So as far as and then we'll jump into the record here, but as far as production and mixing, did you all was it a different process than the last album?
Actually, no, same process. Andy Howler mixed the last one, and the one before that, and he mixed Take No Prisoners. He's a fantastic engineer, mixer guy. I produce the records, which really these days I don't tell Joe Stump what to play or Doogie what to sing or Gary what to play or Larry what to play. It's more about I'm a facilitator, I call it. I'm the one that kind of puts it all together and basically puts it all together. So I traveled around a lot on this album. I had to go to Scotland to cut vocals with Doogie, and I went to Italy to cut drums at Larry's house in Italy.
Oh, wow.
And I went to Boston to cut guitars with Joe.
Awesome. Yeah, this record is killer. Let's just jump right into it. What can you tell us about Little Viper, the first track?
That was a Doogie lyric and melody, and was a really rockin' track. Joe wrote the track, and it was just instant. It was like, oh God, yeah, that's going to be great. And we sent that to Doogie, and Doogie had it immediately. Doogie was all over that one, as he was most of these. 9 out of 10 of them just happened fairly quickly, but that one happened quick. Went in the studio and he sang that in 45 minutes maybe.
Wow.
We were done.
It's a hell of a way to kick the album off. I love it. It's a great opening track. What about track 2, Don't Get Mad, Get Even?
Again, another Doogie great song. That one surprised me when he we sent him a demo, and then he would send me his ideas. He would sing it at home and send me the ideas, and I heard that, and I just loved it. I thought, brother, this is so cool. And when we toured right after that, and we did the European tour.
Right.
and we thought, Giles, I think our manager, suggested, he goes, why don't we get Girls School to sing backup on this?
Yep.
Sing the choruses. And Doogie thought the same thing. He thought, man, that would be great. It's so appropriate, you know. So I was in a hotel room in France, and I carry my recording stuff with me, a laptop and stuff like that, and a mic and whatever. Nice. Girls came in. I played them the track through a little speaker on the desk in the hotel, and the four girls, they held up a Shure SM58 and sang it about 4 times, and we were done. 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really, really good. And they could feel it. Don't get mad, get even. I mean, they were all over that. So it was great.
Yeah, that's incredible. What about track 3, Battle Lines?
Battle Lines, that was interesting. Giles wrote the lyrics and melody, and that started, we were on the road in England, and it was kind of an odd tour. We started on the East Coast of England and played a festival. Then we had 5 days off, but our next tour started on the West Coast. So we stayed in a bed and breakfast.
Oh, cool.
And we started writing and just a lot of pubs. We visited a particular pub there and a lot. And but we did do some writing and stuff, and was really a lot of fun. But so we were there one day, and Giles goes, well, I got this idea. So he starts singing me that melody, and I came up with chord changes and a vibe, feel for that. And Joe jumped right in and had a riff immediately. So Joe and I and Giles put the music together on a coffee table in the living room in that bed and breakfast one afternoon, and then played it for Doogie. Doogie really liked the music, so Doogie wrote a couple of different approaches to that. And then we got in the studio in Scotland to cut vocals on it, and Doogie was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it now. He goes, I think it could be a better lyric and melody.
Oh. Okay.
So Giles and I went back to the hotel in Edinburgh, and in 45 minutes, at about 10 o'clock at night, about 45 minutes, Giles came up with that lyric and a melody. And we came into the studio the next day, Doogie heard it, loved it, and cut it. And so this band makes records, it's pretty straight ahead. It's pretty like old school, if you will.
I love
really.
it.
And that's the way that happened. That happened is about just like stuff used to happen 40 years ago.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's a great story, too, on that one. Let's see, track 4, Strangers.
Yeah, that was, Joe wrote the music, and we had wanted to do kind of an epic. You know, we thought, it'd be really cool to do a long song. And Giles, our manager, said, well, how come you guys don't do anything with different tempos? And we hadn't. We'd never done anything starts in one tempo, ends in another. And I said, well, that's interesting. I never thought about that. So Joe had these ideas, and we started putting them together. Joe and I sat at his house, and he played some stuff, and then we said, well, I could go work with this and work with that. So I just edited the demos, the tracks together, and found a sweet spot that worked, that flowed into the next piece, and then we refined that, and then Doogie just killed it. Doogie jumped all over that and wrote lyrics. So it started off as 2 separate pieces of music, but it ended up the way it is.
So one of my favorite tracks on the record. It's incredible, and great vocal performance by him as well.
Yeah, he sings his butt off on that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great. What about track 5, Gates of Destiny?
That was written by a good friend of mine, Jim Peterick. He from Survivor and Ides of March, and got how many things. Jim wrote Eye of the Tiger, and
oh wow,
I've known Jim for forever, as Jim says, we went over there for dinner a couple of weeks ago, and I walked in, and Jim and I saw each other. I hadn't seen him in a while. We had talked and worked on that. He had given me the song, and I walked in, and Jim gives me a hug, and Jim goes, so how long we known each other, Jimmy? Well, it's like 100 years now, right? And it is. It's been a long time we've known each other. But anyway, I called Jim and said, we need something that will just different than the rest of the stuff on the record. So write us something. He said, absolutely. So that was on a Friday, I think, or Thursday. And by Monday, he had written and demoed up this song completely, wrote it for us. And then we took it and, of course, redid everything and we cut it. And it just came out great. I love the lyrics. Jim is just an unbelievable writer. The guy is just incredible. And I knew that. And everybody loved it. When I went to Boston to cut guitars, Joe loved the song. And he came up with that feel that we call it the Iron Maiden gallop feel, that jump. And but a heavy way of doing it, and it just turned out great. We loved it.
It's one of the best tracks on the record. I think it's killer.
Oh, thank you.
You guys are all flying on that one. It's such a great song. Let's see now the second half of the record. Let's see, Alcatrazz.
That was Giles, our manager's idea, who's a co-writer with us. Giles had the idea and a lyric, and he asked me, he says, what do you think? He said, you think writing about Alcatrazz and calling the song Alcatrazz, you think that's cool? And I said, absolutely. Let's don't shy away from it. It is what it is. On the first Alcatrazz album, Graham wrote Island in the Sun. I wrote the music, Graham wrote the lyrics.
Great song.
And it was about Alcatrazz.
Sure.
And which is really cool. And then so I thought this was very appropriate. It had been 40 years. I think it's time. So, and I love Giles' lyrics on that and melody, so that's where that came from.
Incredible. It's a great way to kick off the second half of the album. Love it. Absolutely think it's a great track. It's really cool. Let's see, track 7, Holy Roller.
That was a song written by our friend in Saxon, Nibs.
Awesome.
The bass. In Saxon wrote the music, and Nibs and I talked. We did a Zoom, and we talked. And he said he'd love to write something, so he sent me a bunch of his ideas, and they were just killer. The guy is such a good writer and an excellent musician.
Oh,
so he played guitar on it and bass, of course, and programmed the drums and stuff for the demo, and it just sounded so good. But we picked out of about, he sent me about 15 ideas. We picked about 4 or 5, and then we kind of lived with those for about a week and talked about it, and then we ended up on this one. And it's funny, his nickname for it was Irma. And so it was Irma right down to the wire, right to the last minute. We kept calling it Irma. Yeah, well, man, that's really cool what Doogie wrote in Irma, and of course Doogie would say, well, but that's not Irma now, it's Holy Roller. And I go, oh, yeah. It gets demoed out on the demo names. But so Nibs wrote that, and he just killed it. I mean, the guy he's so talented and such a good guy. The guys in Saxon are friends and nice people. And
incredible
really
band, incredible that you guys got to work together. Now, had you worked with him before in the past?
Had not worked with Nibs. Nigel, the drummer, had played on the last Alcatrazz album.
Oh, yeah.
On 2 tracks. So we had worked with him, and they're just super guys. They're just really, really good people and real pros. And so they're label mates, and so I knew about them. I always liked Saxon. I loved the vibe of that band.
Sure.
And so it was a real natural to say, hey, I wonder what Nibs is doing. And they weren't touring or anything, and we knew they were off the roads for the moment. So we got in touch with him, and he and I decided to do a Zoom. So we did that, and it was great. Turned out great.
It's killer.
We just loved what he writes.
Yeah, it's great. What about track 8, Power and Numbers?
Doogie, lyric and melody. Joe wrote the music. Gosh, that one just real straight ahead. And when Joe wrote the music, I knew that was going to be, I just felt really good about that. We all did. And Doogie got it, and that was quick for him. I don't think he took more than a few days, and we got a rough idea demo back from him. I really liked the lyrics and the melody that he came up with, so that was fairly straight ahead. Wasn't complicated.
No, I think it's a real standout track. I really liked that. The first time I listened to the record, I was like, that's one of my favorites. Let's see here. Power Numbers, I thought it was killer, but yeah. Let's see, track 9, Salute the Colors.
I wrote that with Joe and Doogie, and that was a really cool thing. Joe, we had the music going, and we're really happy with the track. And then Doogie came up with that title, with those lyrics, and I loved it because it's a little kind of a political statement on on this politics in England, and which can be applied anywhere in the world, really. But I thought it was really cool because we don't make big statements about. We're not a political band per se. We don't go on and pontificate about Republicans, Democrats, or the Queen or whatever. But
sure.
So, but that was really cool. I thought Doogie did a great job on that one, and it was fun writing. Joe came up with the main riff, and then I wrote the changes, I think, in the chorus, but it was really, really fun and cool.
Excellent. And then the final track, Bring on the Rock.
Sign of the Cross, or Bring on the Rock. Oh, right. Again, Doogie and Joe. Joe wrote the track, great track, and Doogie had written some other lyrics, and they weren't really working. I wasn't crazy about them. They weren't killing me. And then we talked about it. There was no big deal. And Doogie went, yeah, because I'm just, I'm not thinking about that one. I'm just not quite there yet. So well, don't worry about it. Let's take our time. Let's move on. Let's work on something else, whatever. And then we got a demo like a day later, and it was that. And I loved it. I loved that idea. It was like rock, bring on the rock, and there's just it was really cool. If you say that, and you write it on paper and look at it, you go, well, you say rock in a song. I mean, what's that all about? But it worked perfect. And the way Doogie spelled it when he wrote me, he sent us the lyrics. He spelled it that way, and I was like, that's interesting. I never thought about that. And spelling it that way. But yeah, he wrote that. And just loved it.
Yeah, it's killer. This is such a great album. I can't say enough good things about it. It's incredible. For my own fandom, do you care if I ask you a question about the past? I have a fun question to ask you. I kind of put Gary on the spot with it way back when we did the interview. I wanted to ask you. So,
put me on the spot.
What's a fun story from Disturbing the Peace? Anything.
Let's see,
Anything.
A fun story. We were in Japan, and Steve and I think it was just Steve and I went down in the hotel for sushi.
Okay.
And we had we're going to go get sushi. And I've been to Japan a lot and had sushi before, but we just had a craving for it. So we go down to the hotel restaurant, and Steve and I are sitting there, and we had, I think I had like one beer at this point. And the guy comes out, and I put some wasabi on on the sushi. It wasn't very spicy, wasn't very hot. So I said to the waiter, I'm like, yeah, well, do you have any better wasabi, fresh wasabi? Because typically wasabi over there it's a powdered form, and they mix it with water.
Oh, okay.
To make a paste, wasabi paste. And I was like being real cocky, like, well, do you have the real thing, a real root, that you chop or whatever? And Steve, he chimed in with me, and Steve was like, yeah, man, that'd be really cool. So we made a thing out of it, and the guy goes, okay, I'll see what I can do. He goes back, and he comes back with some more wasabi. And I thought, yeah, great, thank you very much. And I thought, here I am. That was pretty cool, man. I made a thing about their wasabi, and they brought me new wasabi. I tasted this stuff. I put a piece of sushi in my mouth of this, and it put me in the floor. It was so, you can't really call wasabi hot, but my head exploded. It was so spicy. You've had wasabi, I assume, and you know what it does to your. It feels like the top of your head's going to come off if you get too big
Yep.
amount of it. This was like on steroids. This almost killed me. And Steve was laughing his ass off because he didn't take any. I was the first one. I just couldn't wait to tell the waiter. It was like turning down a bottle of wine. He brings you the bottle of wine. You go, no, not that year. We don't like that year. Bring us another bottle. And oh my God, that wasabi took my head off. And I ate the other. I ended up using the other wasabi. I couldn't eat it. It was too spicy. And I think the waiter knew. He had that poker face. He didn't laugh. He didn't say anything. He was just like, oh, thank you. I hope you're enjoying your meal. Yeah, it's great. Took the top of my head off, you bastard, but it's okay. It's fine. So that's a disturbing the peace story.
Oh man, that's incredible. One last thing, because I'll hate myself forever if I don't ask you. What about a fun story? Maybe you and Yngwie.
A lot of them. Yngwie and I had a blast on the road. I'm trying to think. God. I mean, we laughed a lot. There was a lot of funny, goofy stuff. A story that I like, which wasn't anything crazy. It was just, we were on a tour bus, and a long bus ride. I don't remember where it was from and to, but it was going to be a long one. And typically, we get on the bus, we had a fridge full of beer, so Yngwie and I would sit up front, and we just start drinking immediately. And
it's amazing.
And he doesn't drink anymore. He hasn't drank in years, and that's cool. I just want to make sure we get that on there.
Sure,
but anyway, he and I were drinking, and we had a couple of acoustic guitars. And Yngwie picked up acoustic guitar and just starts messing around. He's playing like the blues, some blues stuff. And so I picked up the other one and started playing a rhythm, like a bluesy kind of rhythm. And Yngwie went off. I mean, this guy played, I can't even tell you. This is on a cheap $100 acoustic guitar, and he's just ripping this thing to pieces. Playing the blues as good as it gets played. I mean, he just killed it. And I'm playing that rhythm, and I just didn't stop. I just kept going, playing through these 1, 4, 5, these changes, and Yngwie just was smoking. And we had so much fun. So we did that. That went on for about an hour of playing the blues. And another time, we were on the Winnebago, and we left LA, and we were going, heading across the desert.
Okay.
And on the Winnebago, and we weren't playing that night. So again, we're drinking and we're laughing and having a great time. So somebody, one of us, and I don't know who, started singing like a Bach-like melody. So, and Yngwie's a big Bach freak, and so am I. And so I may have done it, whatever. And then the other person jumps in and starts singing a counterpoint to that. And so then I think Graham jumped in. So we had like 2 or 3 guys singing this Bach round. And it was obvious. It was I would love to have had a recording of that. These three under the influence guys singing Bach. And it was funny. We laughed so hard because we would sing, and once in a while it would sound really good. It would be like, wow, that sounds like Bach. That sounds like a Bach thing.
Right.
And we'd laugh because it was hilarious that we'd actually, and we're just jamming, we're just goofing, and no idea what we're doing. And we just liked Bach. But it would stop us. It would be so funny that we'd hit it. We'd look at each other like, "Oh my God, that sounded really cool," and we'd laugh about it. It was fun.
That's fabulous.
Kill time.
Thank you
on the road.
Awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible for me, and I know our listeners will love it as a fan. Take No Prisoners comes out May 19th. Silver Lining Music. It's incredible from Alcatrazz. You've been listening to Dr. Vincent West and one of the greatest keyboard players ever, Jimmy Waldo. Jimmy, thank you for doing this. I can't thank you for taking the time before the big weekend.
Thank you so much.
I hope we can do it again sometime. I've had an absolute blast talking with you. Kids, pick up this record. It's great. Give it a spin. And I wish you guys all the best, man. I'm so happy that Alcatrazz is doing stuff.
Thank you so much, Vincent. I appreciate that. And thank you very much for all your kind words about the record and myself.
Dude, it's incredible.
Phantasm.
And you know something? I sort of enjoyed it.
Phantasm.